When I was a football coach, I used to tell my players all the time, control the controllables. And I found myself saying this a lot when there was bad weather in the forecast and we had to go play a game in the snow or the rain and they were freaking out about it. You can't control the weather. How do you help someone figure out whether the thing that's stressing them out is actually something they can do something about?
Well, I think by asking that question and getting real, by asking the question, can you control the weather? Well, no. Well, what can you control? Well, I can control my attitude. I can control my skills or the way I handle this situation. Exercising discernment around that. Too many times people get fully distracted on the things that are not in their control, which causes worry. And worry does not cause action. It actually, worry causes inaction. And it can perhaps even cause harmful stress physically and even emotionally. A lot of times that's where we'll see a lot of anger problems come out because the worries coming from there. So the idea is shifting that to focus on the control. Well, what can you control about the price of fuel that has gone up? Well, I can perhaps start talking to my customers about passing through the cost of fuel. Those are the kinds of things to be talking about between control and non-control issues.
I love what you said there, Rob. It's pretty common that we dwell on what appears to be outside of our control. I'll say appears, or what is happening to me versus focusing on what you can influence. So I know you talked about the controllables and uncontrollables, but even sometimes the uncontrollables can be influenced. It's not a one way or the other. And I found that, as I've thought about things and de-escalated maybe the emotional reaction of what's uncontrollable and approached it with a little more logic and brain power versus emotions. I think a lot of times what you find is, gosh, I have a lot more influence and control over my situation or the environment. Some of the very best and most successful leaders out there are great at compartmentalizing their emotions. While inside, they're upset, they're concerned, they're nervous, they're frustrated. On the outside, they're cool, calm, and collected, right? If you are panicking, everyone else is panicking. That simply just adds a lot more complexity to the issue, the challenge that you're facing that you don't need, and it's not going to help you get to the solution faster. I think there's a lot that we can control and influence.
Scott, when you and Brandi were talking about that example, what came to my mind is Sully, the captain of the aircraft that ended up landing the plane. What I remember about that story is the passengers were always amazed. They reported how calm he was, how he calmly came over the loudspeaker and said, okay, we're going to be landing in the river. You need to be prepared, follow the instructions from your flight attendants. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but the point is he was in control. He got the plane down safely. Everybody survived. He was the last person to leave. He didn't leave until everybody was off the plane. He maintained some semblance of control with his emotions. The other thing, too, is about all of that is he was a very experienced pilot. And he was very well trained, and he was able to go back to, Brandi talks a lot about this muscle memory. Well, leaders build up muscle memory. You can deal with situations like that. Most of our business leaders are not dealing with life and death situations like that one. Can you imagine the stress he was under? And there were certain things he could control, and there was definitely things he could not control. He focused on the things he could control.
And to touch on your muscle memory, because when we talk about control, this is the number one area I am the least qualified to speak on, because this is the one area where I have required the most development for myself. I truly have gone through periods of my life where my husband has given the example of I get on a roller coaster and truly believe that I can, if I try really hard enough, that I can steer the roller coaster in a different direction and the roller coaster is moving. So all of that to say, I'm the most, maybe most experienced and least qualified as a subject matter expert on this. I don't know which one, but I have found that, speaking to that muscle memory, putting myself in situations where I don't have control and then navigating those feelings has really helped me. So for example, like in putting myself in uncomfortable situations, like meditating. I hate to meditate. I don't want to sit there. I don't want to be still. I don't want to be quiet. I want to command the space. I want to command the room, and like having to surrender to someone else and someone else's facilitation, and especially in an area where I don't think that I get much out of it, even though I really do. But in the moment, I'm telling myself this is a waste of time. The things that I could do with this hour rather than just sitting here with my thoughts is very powerful. So putting yourself in, thinking about what stretches you outside of your comfort zone. Where do you have to relinquish control? For 3 years in a row, my year of the word was surrender. So I didn't, it took me a long time to get comfortable with that. And just some things you do have to surrender to the experience. And as much as you try to change it, that roller coaster track is laid. No matter how strong you are, you're not going to make it go right when the track's going left.